The screen is dark. The only light comes from the cold blue glow of three 27-inch monitors. It is 5:58 a.m. in Chicago. Outside, the wind off Lake Michigan cuts through the skyscrapers, but inside this office, the air is still and silent. You are 29 years old, and in the high-stakes world of mid-cap industrials, you are considered a rising star. You have spent years perfecting the art of the spreadsheet. Your managing director does not even stay in the room when you present anymore. He does not need to. He trusts your numbers implicitly. And in this business, trust is the only currency that buys you sleep. You sleep better than most of your colleagues because you believe you have mastered the rules. You cover mid-cap industrials at a second-tier asset manager. Your fund holds $4.2 billion across 60 different positions. You personally own 8 of them. Every morning, you arrive before 6, open your screens, and begin the ritual. You read earnings releases, management commentary, and sell-side updates that usually say nothing at all. You operate on a singular, unshakable belief. The market is a massive global mechanism designed for price discovery. Your entire career, your entire identity is built on the premise that you can find where that mechanism is wrong. You find the gap between price and value, and you exploit it. But that belief is about to be corrected in a way no textbook ever could. The call comes on a Tuesday in October, just 4 minutes before the closing bell. It is a number you do not recognize, a local area code, but an unlisted line. The voice on the other end is calm. Not the rehearsed calm of a salesman trying to close a lead, but the terrifyingly precise calm of a surgeon before the first incision. The voice belongs to a man named Garrett Whitmore. He represents a family office managing $3.1 billion in private assets. They hold 22% of Arden Industrial, one of your 8 core companies. He would like to meet this week before Friday's earnings call. He does not ask for your availability. He simply provides a time. You go. The office is in the West Loop, located in an old industrial building that has been renovated with surgical minimalism. There is no signage on the door, no gold lettering. The elevator requires a key card. You press the card against the reader, and the floor requires specific access. When the doors open, you see Whitmore. He is in his mid-50s, with silver at the temples and a white open-collar shirt. No tie, no cufflinks. He pours 2 glasses of water without asking and sets a folder on the table. Inside are your last 3 quarterly notes on Arden. They are not just red. They are annotated in blue pen. Not highlighted, but annotated with margin notes that challenge your assumptions about capital expenditure and depreciation. Someone has been reading you very, very carefully. The family bought Arden 11 years ago for $4.12 a share. Today, it trades at $31. That is a 600% return. In your world, the stock is fully valued. As an analyst, your logic is a straight line. Sell. It is basic portfolio management. You take the win, you realize the gain, and you find the next opportunity. You tell him this. You say, "Why not sell? It is time to harvest." Whitmore looks at you the way a professional chess player looks at someone who just moved their queen into a trap. He does not argue. He simply says, "Walk me through the tax." You begin the calculation. Federal capital gains at 20%. Net investment income tax at 3.8%. Illinois state tax at 4.95%. On $280 million in unrealized gains, a sale means roughly $80 million in taxes. Permanently gone. To you, that is the cost of realizing the gain. To Whitmore, that is a cost they choose not to pay. He slides a term sheet across the table. It is a $190 million lending facility at 3.4% interest. No tax event. No sale. Liquidity is simply borrowed into existence. The asset continues to compound at 8%, while the debt costs less than half of that. They never gave up the position. They never paid the toll. Our job, Whitmore says, is to make sure we never have to find another security again. That is when your true education begins. Your first year with Whitmore is not about picking stocks. It is about architecture. In the public markets, you learned about allocation, how much to put in tech, how much in energy. Here, you learn about structure. You begin to see the portfolio not as a collection of tickers, but as a machine. It is a machine designed to generate spending power indefinitely without ever triggering the diminishing event of a sale. You spend months modeling the family's portfolio architecture. It is far more structural than anything you saw at the asset manager. Real estate is held through a series of LLCs, each one a separate legal container, insulating the whole from the parts. Equity positions are held in a trust designed to step up the cost basis at death. This is the ultimate glitch in the system that no one talks about. When a wealthy individual dies, the cost basis of their assets is reset to the current market value. The embedded gains are eliminated for the heirs entirely. The government never sees the appreciation that occurred over 40 years. You model it one night at 11 p.m., alone in the office. Scenario 1, the family sells Arden, pays the $80 million in tax, and reinvests the remainder. Scenario 2, the family borrows at 3.4%, retains the position, and lets it compound. You run the numbers forward 30 years. The gap is not incremental, it is generational. $340 million more in the second scenario, not because of a better investment, but because of what they refused to pay. The math is not subtle, it is almost brutally obvious once you see it. You wonder why no one taught this in your MBA program, then you realize why. This knowledge is not for the participants of the market, it is for the owners of the world. In the second year, Whitmore introduces you to a second family. This is older wealth, third generation. They operate through a network that works by referral only. They own things most people never think about: toll roads, a regional water utility, a portfolio of cell towers. These assets do not merely appreciate in value, they generate cash every single month, regardless of market conditions. They are disconnected from interest rate cycles and the quarterly noise of Wall Street. The family calls this permanent income, income that cannot be stopped. In a meeting, the family patriarch is presented with an offer to sell the water utility. The buyer is a massive sovereign wealth fund. The offer is clean, 12 times earnings, $680 million in cash. A clean close in 60 days. The family's cost basis is $18 million from a purchase made in 1987. The patriarch does not ask about the buyer. He does not ask about the premium. He asks a single question: what can we borrow against it today? The answer is $290 million at 4.1%. He says, that is enough for the next project, and thanks everyone for their time. You understand then that selling was never a real option to him. Selling is an ending. Every asset is a permanent claim on the world's productive output. To sell it is to trade a permanent claim for a temporary pile of cash. Cash that will be taxed, spent, or poorly reinvested. The wealthy do not sell, because selling is the worst thing you can do with an asset that is working. You walked into that room thinking about exits. You walked out thinking about forever. By the third year, you are no longer just an observer. You are building the lattice. You are brought in to advise a tech founder who has $1.4 billion in a single equity position. If he sells, he collapses the stock price and triggers a catastrophic tax event simultaneously. You construct a solution using an exchange fund. The founder contributes his position to a partnership with other founders, diversifying his risk without triggering a single dollar in tax. The mechanics take 4 months. The legal fees alone are $2.4 million. When it closes, The founder calls you from a boat somewhere in the Mediterranean. He says he feels like he finally won. He moved the pieces better than most people even know pieces can be moved. You begin to understand leverage differently. It is not risk. It is a tool for creating liquidity from illiquidity without ever touching the asset. The very wealthy do not think in terms of portfolio volatility. They think in terms of collateral quality. A piece of real estate earns rents, but it also secures a credit facility at 50% loan to value. That facility funds the next acquisition, which is also used as collateral for the next. The assets are not a stack. They are a lattice. Each one supports the weight of the others. Selling one piece does not merely remove its contribution, it weakens every surrounding node in the network. You stop thinking in positions. You start thinking in structures. In the 4th year, you are brought in quietly to advise on a restructuring. A publicly traded holding company is under pressure from an activist investor. The activist is demanding the sale of its real estate assets to return capital to shareholders. The activist is correct about the valuation. The logic is clean and logical. It is exactly the kind of logic you used when you believed in price discovery. But you are no longer on that side of the table. The controlling shareholder owns 41% of the equity. It is 2 generations of family ownership with a negligible cost basis. The embedded gain is $940 million. A sale would cost $260 million in taxes before a single dollar is reinvested. But it is more than just the tax. Selling would sever an income stream generating $38 million annually, forever. It would also surrender voting control over 3 major office markets for the next 40 years. That influence does not appear on a spreadsheet. You cannot model it. It is structural power compounding, not in dollars, but in access and relationships. You build the defense, a leveraged dividend. You return capital to the activist without triggering a sale. The activist accepts. The family keeps the city blocks. The income continues. Whitmore looks at you and says, "You understand now. The game moves to the next level." The wealthy do not sell because every sale is a permanent subtraction from their legacy. Real wealth is built on the absolute refusal to subtract. An asset in motion, generating income, serving as collateral and compounding, is categorically different from cash. Cash is inert. Cash is taxed when it arrives and eroded by inflation while it waits. An asset is alive. A toll road does not stop collecting tolls because the owner is having a bad quarter. The sophisticated owner borrows against the operation, paying interest that is lower than the asset's yield, pocketing the spread, and compounding the difference into the next acquisition. The tax code is not a constant. It is a variable that responds to structure. The family that sells pays the toll. The family that borrows does not. The family that holds until death passes the asset with a stepped-up cost basis, and the government never sees the gain. This is not evasion. It is architecture. Every wealthy family of duration has an architect, even if most people do not know they exist. Your network has narrowed dramatically in number, but it has widened dramatically in utility. Most conversations you have now have become a form of performance. You cannot discuss your actual work in most rooms because the gap between what you know and what can be said has become a permanent interior condition. You are now working on something larger than anything you have touched before. An offer has arrived, valuing a new project at $2.8 billion. The embedded gain is $1.9 billion. The tax, depending on the structure, ranges from $380 million to $560 million. You are threading liquidity and tax deferral through the same needle, using a legal structure that spans 3 different jurisdictions. The IRS has been watching for 18 months, and the stakes could not be higher. You are building something that might not hold, but you are building it anyway because it is encoded into the family policy. We do not sell. The markets open tomorrow. Tax Council answers in 3 weeks. You hold the map, but you do not own the toll roads. You do not own the city blocks. You are the architect of the machine. Another family is waiting. Another position. Another embedded gain. The game continues, and the machine never stops.